I signed my name with a smile while everyone around me applauded. But before the applause ended, my wife quietly took off her wedding ring and placed it beside the contract. She looked into my eyes with tears that hurt more than anger and whispered, "You did not lose the business today, Ethan. You lost the only person who begged you not to sign." I stared at the paper, unable to understand why the greatest day of my life suddenly felt like the end of everything. But to understand why one signature destroyed both my company and my marriage, I have to take you back to the beginning, when success made me believe I could never be wrong.
My name is Ethan, and I was 36 years old when this happened. My wife, Clara, and I had spent 7 years building a small furniture business with our own hands. I designed every piece, while she managed every payment, every receipt, and every difficult decision. We were different in the best way. I believed in taking risks. She believed in taking time. Together, those differences made us strong. But after our business finally began to grow, I slowly started believing that the success belonged more to me than to us. I did not notice how dangerous that thought was until it quietly began changing every conversation we had. When our first big profits arrived, people started treating me differently. Friends congratulated me. Relatives asked me for business advice. Every compliment made me feel taller than the day before. Clara stayed exactly the same. She still checked every bill before paying it and questioned every important decision before agreeing. At first, I admired her caution, but later I began seeing it as fear. Whenever she asked another question, I answered a little faster. Whenever she warned me to slow down, I smiled a little less. Without realizing it, I had stopped seeing her as my partner and started treating her like someone standing between me and an even bigger future.
A few weeks later, I received an email that promised everything I had ever dreamed about. A large hotel company wanted hundreds of custom furniture pieces, and the value of the contract was bigger than all our previous projects combined. My hands shook with excitement as I read every line. I imagined a larger workshop, new machines, and finally giving Clara and our daughter the life I believed they deserved. Clara read the same email much more slowly. She did not smile. Instead, she asked simple questions that I did not want to answer. "Why are they in such a hurry?" she asked. "Why do they want us to sign before we even discuss the details?" I called it confidence. She called it a warning. The contract arrived the following morning. It was thick, full of small print, and written in language that felt harder than anything I had ever read. Clara made coffee, sat beside me, and began reading every page with a pencil in her hand. She underlined sentences and wrote notes in the margins. I became impatient after only a few minutes. "Lawyers always make contracts look complicated," I said. "That does not mean anything is wrong." Clara did not argue. She simply pointed to one paragraph and asked me to read it again. I looked at it for only a few seconds before pushing the papers aside. I believed experience mattered more than careful reading, and that decision would soon cost me everything. That evening, our discussion became the first real argument we had ever had about the business. Clara asks me to delay the meeting for 2 days so we could ask an independent lawyer to explain every condition in the contract. I refused immediately. I told her that waiting could make us lose the opportunity forever. She reminded me that good opportunities did not disappear because someone asked honest questions. I answered with words I regretted the moment they left my mouth. "Maybe you were afraid because you have never believed I could build something truly great." The pain on her face lasted only a second, but I knew I had crossed a line that could not easily be erased. The morning of the meeting felt like a celebration. Clara came with me, but she barely spoke during the drive. I told myself she would change her mind after seeing the size of the opportunity. When the contract was placed in front of me, I flipped through the pages without reading them again. Clara gently touched my arm and whispered, "Please, one more time." I smiled at her, picked up the pen, and signed my name with complete confidence. Everyone around the table congratulated me. They shook my hand and called me a successful businessman. I looked at Clara, expecting her to smile too.
Instead, she quietly lowered her eyes, and for the first time in our marriage, I saw fear instead of trust.
The first few weeks were exciting. Our workshop worked from sunrise until late at night. We borrowed money to buy better equipment and hired more workers to finish the order on time. Every evening I returned home exhausted, but proud. Clara still reviewed every document, but I stopped asking for her opinion. I believed the hardest part was already behind us because the contract had been signed. One night, she placed a copy of the agreement beside my dinner plate and asked me to read one specific page. I pushed it away and said, "The deal is done. Reading it now changes nothing." I did not realize that everything was about to change.
We delivered every piece exactly on schedule. I walked through the finished rooms with a heart full of pride. The furniture looked beautiful. I imagined the payment arriving within days. Instead, a message arrived saying the company had rejected the entire delivery because it did not meet their internal standards. I could not believe it. The contract allowed them to make that decision alone. Worse, another clause required us to pay for collecting every piece ourselves. My hands began shaking as I read the pages Clara had begged me to read before signing. Every warning she had given me was already written there in black ink.
Within a month, our savings disappeared. The loan payments continued, but the money we expected never came. I had to sell machines that we had worked years to afford. Then I sold my office furniture. Finally, I closed the workshop completely. The silence inside that empty building hurt more than any argument. Every table and chair reminded me of the dream I had destroyed with my own confidence. At home, Clara never said, "I told you so." Her silence was much heavier than those words could ever be. Every time I looked at her, I remembered the moment I ignored the person who had always protected us. One evening, I found Clara packing documents into blue folders. They were the same folders she had carefully organized for years. I asked what she was doing. She answered quietly, "I am putting away the business we built together." Then she removed her wedding ring and placed it on top of the contract. "I can survive losing money," she said. "What broke me was watching you stop trusting me." I wanted to defend myself, but every excuse sounded empty. I realized that the business had not destroyed our marriage. My pride had done that long before the contract was signed. For several days, we barely spoke. I spent my mornings searching for work and my evenings sitting alone in the empty workshop. I replayed every conversation Clara and I had shared during the previous months. She had never tried to stop my dream. She had only tried to protect it. Slowly, I understood the difference between courage and arrogance. Courage listens before acting. Arrogance believes it already knows everything. One night, I went home, placed the contract on the kitchen table, and admitted something I had never admitted before. "You were right," I said. "I stopped treating you like my partner." Clara did not forgive me immediately. She said trust could not return with one apology, just as it had not disappeared after one mistake. She was right. So instead of making promises, I changed my actions. I found a regular job to pay our debts. Every evening, I studied contracts, business law, and financial planning. Whenever I learned something new, I shared it with Clara, instead of pretending I already knew it. Little by little, our conversations became longer. They were still careful, but they were honest again. For the first time in many months, I felt we were rebuilding something much more important than a business. 2 years later, Clara and I opened another workshop. It was much smaller than the first one, but this time every important decision belonged to both of us. No paper was signed until we had both read every page. No opportunity was accepted simply because it looked exciting. People often asked why we took so much time before making decisions. I always smiled because they could not see the expensive lesson hidden behind that answer. Success returned slowly, but unlike before, it stood on patience instead of pride. The business grew again because our partnership had grown first. Today, people still congratulate me when they see our company succeed, but they never know the true story behind that success. They think I became wiser after losing money. The truth is different.
I became wiser after almost losing my wife. Money can be earned again. A business can be rebuilt. Even a dream can return. But trust is far more valuable than any contract, and pride is far more dangerous than failure. If I learned one lesson from the signature that almost destroyed my life, it is this: the smartest person in the room is not the one who speaks with the most confidence, but the one who is humble enough to listen before signing.